Yeah, Ken Bassham. I'm currently the Chief Revenue Officer at NQ Zebraworks. I, like Mike, have been in legal tech for a little over 2 decades. Did a couple of stints at, or did a stint at Thomson Reuters for a while. So just been automating law firms, and now for the last few years been at NQ Zebraworks.
Rick, you're up.
Oh, hi, I'm Rick Hellers. I'm the co-founder of NQ Zebraworks. I've been a pioneer of legal tech for 40 years, spent 20 years with law firms in chief leadership level positions and taking risks on technology leaps, and then 20 years now in building companies that service law firms' technology needs around the globe.
Thank you. Mike, please reintroduce yourself. I think the recording missed the beginning of what you were saying, so please reintroduce yourself.
Sorry about that. All right. Mike Raposa, Vice President, Service Delivery for Donnelley, North America, our Go Creative division. I've been working in the BPO space, primarily with law firms for the past 20 years. Right now, I focus most of my energy on the administrative platform, remote outsourcing, so offsite services.
Thank you. Anthony, you're up.
Sure, thanks, Rafi. I'm Anthony Davies. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Forrest Solutions. I've spent half my career in outsourcing and half in legal tech. I spent a lot of time at LexisNexis, but 22 years ago, I was signing some of the first on-site outsourcing contracts at law firms and banks in London. Relocated over here to New York in 2015, and recently joined Forrest to lead sales and marketing.
Well, thank you all. I'm Rafi Salem, Vice President of Marketing here at Forrest Solutions. Today, in our webinar, Reimagining Office Services in 2021, instead of talking about 2021, let's start off with 2020. So I'd love to go around the horn and ask all of you, what are, when I say some of the challenges that you experienced in 2020, I guess we can only, because we're limited by time, what were some of the challenges that you experienced in 2020? Mike, why don't you start off, and then we'll go to NQ with Ken and Rick.
Sure. So as I said in the introduction, primarily focusing on supporting law firms and professional services firms remotely during this time. And so, definitely a different host of challenges with that type of a business versus some of the on-site or technology challenges that Anthony and the rest of the group are going to talk about. But, I think that I'll start it off with really a quote, and it's, adaptability is the powerful difference between adapting to cope and adapting to win, right? And I think, in the clients that I've supported and worked with over the past 9 months, 12 months, really you're seeing firms take a different look. We think we're going to go back to the office and do something slightly, similar to what we were before, or we're going to take this opportunity to completely revamp operations and do things very differently to gain a competitive advantage later on. And so a couple of challenges that I saw really is, how were people able to manage productivity, right? Because it's an interesting thing. Client demand is up, at least it is recently over the past several months, different than from the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone just woke up one day and said, we're working from home, and that's that, right? So, over that time period, as client expectations and demand changes, how are firms actually managing the productivity of their individuals? Are they getting the sense that some of the work that those people have been doing is still necessary as we move to the new normal, or is it not? And I've heard firms say very specifically, there are certain functions that we thought were critical to our firm before the pandemic that we are now flat out eliminating, right? So it's really that evaluation process of, what did we need? What do we need going forward? And then the second thing I'll say before I pass the baton here is, clearly security and compliance was a major factor, for my group and working with professional services firms, right? I think that the if I were to, I guess, forecast 5 years ago that every single person would be working from home all over the globe, connected by, disparate process and different things, and it kind of worked for a period of time, I would never have made that prediction. So, I think that the security and compliance, the fact that we were able to do that and eliminate any major cybersecurity threats and, setting things up in a way that information was protected and processes in place so that, clients could feel comfortable working with their professional services firms, is a job well done, I think, by the industry, and something that is going to forecast to the future as to what, we do as we move forward. And technology and security will play a major role. I don't know if we're passing it over to Ken, Rafi, but I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, yeah, happy to jump in. We didn't really have any challenges. It's pretty much business as usual. No, just joking. Yeah, so we had, we've spent so much of our time at NQ Zebraworks focusing on the MFDs and our embedded technology that's in that and improving your experience when you're within a firm, and a secondary focus on some of our work from anywhere tools that we've always had. So a big part of that being digital mailroom and just kind of working from anywhere. So extending the functionality that you have in the firm outside of the firm. So for us, it was a shift of focus and shift of message. And part of that was driven just by our clients coming to us. And digital mailroom was one of the first things that popped up. Hey, we're not pushing the cart down the hall anyway, right? Anymore. And how do we get that information to the people who need it? So for us, it was a re-education of some of the tools that usually were a secondary focus, because we focused so much on the experience when you're within a law firm and improving that experience. So we had to, from a sales standpoint, refocus how people are talking about the products, and then also further educate our clients that those solutions exist and how to best use them and how to basically accommodate the new world in which we were living. So Rick, you probably have something to add to that.
Well, no, thanks, Ken. And I love these types of discussions because there's common threads throughout everything. The new term or the new phrase that's being pushed about is digital transformation, right? And I kind of chuckle with the work that we've been doing at NQ since 2002. We've really been helping people we've been helping firms through digital transformation now for 18 years. And for us, what that meant was an acceleration of the paperless journey. So just think about for a moment, right? You can't work from anywhere when the paper's in the office. And so our clients who already had embraced our InfoRoute solutions, which really is a 5th generation scanning solution that we've built from the ground up, but through the feedback of some of the largest law firms in the world, is the vehicle for being able to digital transform and to accelerate the journey to paperless, but most importantly, continue to collaborate. So we've been really excited to see people embrace, what we've been trying to get firms to embrace for a long time.
Yeah, and I would say from Forrest's perspective, as an on-site provider of office services, when everybody gets sent home, you're the last people left. For many of our clients, we were left behind to keep the lights on and keep things running. And in many of the buildings, the only people in the building were actually people from Forrest. So it was a huge shift for us. And we had to work out, first of all, the contracts we had with our clients for a long time. Whatever we do now, whatever we did then, will define our future relationship. So we pretty much immediately sat down and renegotiated a lot of our contracts. And then we had to work out how to redesign process for the on-site services to connect end users that were no longer on site. And that meant investing in different types of technology and partnering with off-site service providers. I guess from a technology perspective, the two biggest areas where we've had to scramble, if you like, was implementing digital mailrooms. And we had a range of suggestions from customers, from a curbside pickup for mail and drive-through mailrooms, all the way through to implementing cloud-based digital mail solutions. And then the other side of it was records. Many of our end users still needed access to the paper, and this is in banks and in law firms and in corporations. They still needed access to the paper documents they had on site, and the only people on site were the people from Forrest Solutions. So we very quickly had to put solutions in place to connect the end users securely with the documents that they needed to do their roles. So it's been a challenge, and I think being able to adapt and pivot and partner with the likes of these guys on this call and others has been critical to, successfully delivering this mass work from home experiment.
So, Mike, as you had started talking, the pandemic, I would say, got started, March, April. Can you bring us back? Tell us a little history about the last year, the 2020 challenges. Get into a little more specifics.
Yeah, I mean, there was no time to plan. No one was prepared, when March came. I remember from my own, case, I was on a plane in Philadelphia one day, and then the next day the planes were grounded and no one was going anywhere. And so, the conversation started with, how can we get people into the office to take care of stuff while we have others work at home? Do we have enough laptops? Do we have enough, security gear, all that type of things, like procurement type activities? And then it quickly, the workflow, or the new workflow with everyone working in locations forever, began to take hold. And what happened, I think, was people quickly started to adapt to the fact that, this flexible working is actually okay, right? We can do this, right? We can, get things done at home. There's no problem. Everything is good. And then I think what's happened now is that the fall has come into the winter. People are still at home, with remote schooling for their kids. There's a huge demand on people to do both work, with their own personal, within the confines of their personal requirements, which is, educating their kids and helping with that process. And then in the additional, they've got, their work responsibilities, and that whole idea of flexibility and no boundaries is now changing, right? And so what we're seeing is that, people are now saying, all right, well, maybe we should be going back to the office, or maybe we should be taking that next step to do things. But what I also think is going to happen, and we can get into this in the next segment, though, is that people are going to want the same support. They're going to want the same type of routine, whether they work at their house, on a plane, in their office, on a train, wherever it is, right? And so the expectation for support providers is going to be that you're able to toggle between whether partner X is in the office or that person's at home or whatever it is. And we were getting to that part. We were trying to start to prepare to support people in that way, at least through remote services in our business and what I've been doing. We never quite got there. And then when people go back now and they make those choices, that's where I think we're gonna have to understand, is it really possible to provide that exact same level of service? And I think what Anthony is saying is that it is, but you have to be flexible.
So Ken and Rick, give us a little history. What happened in March and April, and then throughout the summer at NQ?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, I guess, and it parallels what Mike was saying just a little bit, being able to extend the functionality, not from a services standpoint necessarily, but from a software standpoint. So how do you make it work the same regardless of where you are? But I think, specifically, things slowed down, obviously, but not implementations. So we had a lot of people who had planned these projects for a long time, and we had to pivot and say, how do we roll out what's typically done on site from a training, touching machines, everything like this, and literally pivot to a kind of a virtual implementation so that we don't get too far off track, because they had other projects that were following ours. So our implementation team did a great job of coming up with with videos, and really just kind of rethinking the way that they rolled out the product so that we could continue on that. So from a sales perspective, you know, it wasn't as difficult. A lot of those people work remote and these types of things. The biggest thing for our clients, like I mentioned, was, you know, kind of the digital mailroom, as Anthony mentioned as well. But then the biggest thing for our internal folks was, how do we implement something we traditionally do face-to-face, people touching machines, you know, learning how to use this and do that completely virtually. But what do you say, Rick?
No, that's true. Let me talk from a perspective of the company. You know, we were one of the first legal tech vendors to immediately shut down any physical offices and go virtual. And for us, it was not hard. You know, in some ways, we were already a work from anywhere type organization because we're a global company with global clients. And we had already implemented tools to enhance our support, because we're always investing in our support, and our clients, you know that when they call, we come running, and they know that we don't give up and put the phone down until we can try to solve the problem. So we were well positioned, but and so that was kind of an interesting experience. I had a little concern, obviously, going into it with, you know, okay, nobody's going to be in a physical office, and we're going to do everything we've done so well together and collectively now remotely. But it was really simple, and we enhanced our services and we enhanced our support because we were already working with online collaboration tools and video conferences and meetings. We had implemented that a good year in advance. And what we saw, though, were clients calling more often, right? With even a greater sense of urgency, because they were trying to figure out how they could deploy their entire workforce remotely. And if, as a legal tech provider, you know, firms were reaching out in every way for asking for help and assistance. So as so often has happened in the legal community, you know, the legal community really came together and helped each other. And, you know, that's been fantastic to be a part of.
And I would say from our perspective, the move to working from home was not easy, but it was way easier than the plans to come back to the office. It's going to be way easier to move everybody to remote working than moving everybody back to the office. And once we'd got down exactly what we were going to do for our customers, redesigned some process, implemented some technology, renegotiated some contracts, the next big thing that happened for us, kind of the back end of last year, was our clients and potential clients coming to us saying, we now need to start planning for when the mass reopening happens. And we've got plenty of time, but we need to start planning now. And we need to, and many of these potential clients and existing clients are talking about areas of their business that today are not outsourced. They're in-house, they've furloughed people, they laid people off, they're running with a skeleton crew. But they know that when the world reopens, whenever that might be, and however that might happen, there's a need to design business units differently. So probably the back end of last year, October, November time, we really started having conversations with law firms and corporates, asking us to help them with the planning for reopening. And that's where we had to take a step back and look at our existing business models, our existing contracts. You know, the traditional on-site outsourcing contract has been a fixed number of people for a fixed amount of time. Maybe some variability in there based on volumes of work or whatever it is you're doing, but it's generally been a fairly fixed approach. And where we've had real success is looking at that fixed approach and disrupting it, if you like. Forrest, we probably know we're a part outsourcing, part staffing business, and we've decided to take a look at contracts now from an outsourcing and a staffing perspective. So we build in the flex that you need to start with a skeleton crew, if you like. 2 or 3 of our clients that have started reopening with just a couple of people that will flex up based on the occupancy of their buildings. Obviously, in some states, the return to the office has been faster than in others. But we expect from about the middle of this year, as the vaccines start to be, we start to get a bulk of the high risk population vaccinated. We expect to see more clients coming back to the office and more clients saying we need help to do this differently, which presents opportunity, but it also presents the need to be really innovative and really flexible.
So Mike, back to you. Let's talk about that in the last 5 minutes. Not the challenges or necessarily, but what's the plan? What's the plan for 2021 and getting back to the office for our Donnelley?
Yeah, I think, I mean, focusing on mainly the offsite operations, it's slightly easier for us. I mean, that we've been talking with clients for a long time about this need to develop a center of excellence, or to take different processes that you have within the administrative portfolio or back office or what have you for professional services firms, and outsource those. Because why should you really want to spend the time to train and enhance and do all of those things? And so these conversations are not new from my perspective, but what is new is that I think that especially for professional services firms, as they work to try to make sure that their revenue generation population is, getting the support that they need, that's going to require a lot of resource on their end. And so what we're saying to clients is, this is the time to think about how you can support them in a different way. Roles are evolving, right? So I've talked to many different C-level individuals in the AmLaw population where they've said that the secretarial role will just never be the same, as it is. We've gotten our hands around sort of what's taking place, and we definitely don't need somebody outside of their office, number one. Number two, what exactly is the performance level of those individuals on a daily basis, and not to say that they would not be retained. It's just that they're going to be asked to do much higher level function, right? So higher level stuff. That means client relationships, dealing with people that are in the office, that sorts of stuff. So what you'll do then is you'll take different activities that those people are doing, like pre-bills and time entry and calendaring and travel and all those types of functions, and those will be centralized. And we're seeing that over and over again, many firms looking at that one way or the other. Many of our clients that we are working with, is a natural progression to that, because we already had the offsite platform set up. We were able to get to a work from home model and then just start taking those specific tasks and functions off of people's plate so that there was one central place to do it. And I just think that's only going to expand. And then the one last thing I'll say is that you're going to need technology to manage it, right? If anyone thinks that they're going to operate in the long term without a productivity tool or workflow tool or some type of system that's going to keep it all together, manage people's productivity, provide the reporting that they need, give people access to services quickly and easily, they will not survive without that system when you then now have to manage the office and work from home in the same way. Right, you're going to. So
Ken, perfect segue for Ken and Rick to talk about NQ and getting back to the office in 2021.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at, or I know what we're looking at, in fact, is if you think about when we first went remote, a lot of firms were prepared, but a lot of firms weren't, and so the users were starting with nothing. So all you had to do is give them something, and that was better than nothing. Now, as they come back to the office, we're thinking they're going to remember some of the things that they had when they're in the office, and think that those things really need to be extended wherever that they might be working. So a lot of our focus is a balanced focus in literally giving, your office is anywhere you are, right? So it's the same experience when you're in the firm, regardless of where you might be. So that's a big focus for us. It's a bit of a balanced focus. So instead of just writing tools for in the office, making sure you have tools that are available wherever, and the user experience is exactly the same, right? So that it just carries and kind of follows them along. So that's a big focus for us, is just making sure that we provide that same experience wherever they might be. And Rick?
Yeah, so for us, work from anywhere includes the office. And we committed about a year and a half ago to only developing solutions that were cloud-based. So for us, again, this just kind of was a natural journey, but it's been rapidly accelerated as a result of people having a greater demand to work from anywhere. But the experience, as Ken said, is identical. It needs to be identical because work from anywhere includes the office, and people are going to want to take advantage of a common interface and a common workflow, regardless of where they are.
And to that end, I would say the on-site outsourcing contracts that you had a year ago will look very different as you sign new ones this year, because they will need to include more of this technology. The reason why we're doing this webinar with NQ Zebraworks and with R.R. Donnelley is because the need for an alliance with technology and offsite partners has never been greater, and our on-site contracts will be a lot more flexible in terms of the number of people, the roles that the people do, and the locations and the way that the work is done. And those are the conversations that we're having right now with clients, as I say, or potential clients who are starting to think about how to reinvent and how to reimagine the office in 2021.
And just one question from Inga Zegward. I apologize if I didn't say that correctly. How have you supported the associates with the challenge of working from home versus managing the new private situation, kids homeschooling, for instance? If you all want to take 30 seconds on that, and then we'll wrap things up.
I can jump in to start. I think very quickly, it's been our scheduling. We've noticed that people need to are looking for support at different times throughout the day, right? And so with our centralized platforms, we have been just toggling people around. And in all honesty, it's the sort of that, I guess, ambiguous schedule and that sort of thing. It's tiresome for the employees too, right? And everybody's kind of feeling that burn a little bit, as I mentioned before, about the blurred lines between when to work and when to not. So we're constantly evolving with that, but at this point in time, the only thing to do has been flexibility.
Ken and Rick?
Yeah, Rick, you want to take that one?
I don't think we've seen much change, other than greater demand from support and a need to have greater remote access, which then requires a deeper dive into the security equation. But we've always been, as a legal tech provider, we've always been, #1 security aware. And so we've just broadened our remote access. And again, it's been a natural evolution and a faster path to where we were headed anyway.
So Anthony, I think you're the perfect person to end this off with young children at home.
Yeah.
Why don't we wrap things up, and then I'll thank everyone.
Yeah, I have 3 boys under 7, so I know what it feels like to be overrun at home. I think our answer is the same as Mike, and that's exactly what customers are saying to us now. It's like, I don't think we'll ever go back to where we were, 100% in the office. We're going to have a hybrid workforce. The hours are going to be more flexible. So we now need to create solutions that operate broader hours and more ways to communicate, send requests, and track work and get work done.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. Let's see if I can put this up here. Yes. So this is everyone's contact information. We'll also be reaching out to all the attendees. Thank you so much to our panelists, Ken, Mike, and I Didn't put Rick there. Sorry about that, Rick. But our upcoming events are forrestsolutions.com/events. Our next event and next webinar is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Please tell your friends and your colleagues. And then this follow-up will be on February 23rd. So with that, thank you, everyone, and have a great day.